Task force is gone with regard to the Yacht Club. And what this meeting was initially going to be was a meeting of the Executive Council, which are our committee chair, and we're going to talk about amenities, among other things. But this came up, and we felt this is so important that the committee folks get this information and share it with their people, that we decided to make it a combined board meeting and executive council meeting. Okay, we normally start our board meetings off with the pledge of allegiance to the flag, so let's do that.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, in addition to the board members here, Joe, you recording this thing, Joe? Okay, so let me tell you who's here. The 10-year task force is a task force that was formed to study the major rehabilitation of our facilities, okay? And the people on that task force that are here, Ted Maroney, he's the coordinator of the task force. It's Tom Olson's task force, the general manager. I'm on it, Bill Rako. Jim Duke is on it. Jim Duke has had experience in construction management of big projects from Montgomery County.
Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yeah. Pete Gumsack, our treasurer, is on it. Dave Stevens is on it from the board. Who did I miss?
Terry and Joe, but they're not here.
Right. Two members from Public Works and Bill C., who's an architect from Becker Morgan. So that's the 10-year task force, okay? We have here a lot of people don't know who we have here, so we have here the committee chair, or someone filling in for the committee chair from the clubs committee. I'm not going to introduce you all. From the Marine Advisory, Activities Advisory Committee, the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee, the Communications Advisory Committee, the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, the Recs and Parks Advisory Committee. Nobody's here from tennis, right? Golf. Is that meeting over yet? Just ended, okay. Paddle. Paddle has not got that status yet, but they're a club. Okay, and the Environmental and Natural Assets Committee and the Architectural Review Committee. So we've got a lot of people here. And the Bylaws Committee.
Communications.
I'm sorry, Jim. Yeah, bylaws. I'm right. Yeah, bylaws.
Communications.
And communications. I think I mentioned communications. Anyway, so what I like to do in this board meeting, normally if you follow Robert's rules, I like to have pretty relaxed Robert's rules, but in this particular case, I'm going to, without objection, I'm going to remove the rules and allow questions from not only the committee chair and the acting committee chairs, but anybody in the room who has a question. When it comes time to have a question, I'd like to be able to, you came here tonight to learn and hear, and I want to hear what you all have to say too. So with no objection, that's what we'll do, okay? We also have two other guests here. From Lehman Construction Services, Inc., Mr. Jeff Nouse, who is the president of that corporation, and Mr. Bill Nye, who is the engineer, in-house engineer of that corporation, okay? Now, let me go back to a little history here. I'm going to go back, some the people in the task force know what I'm talking about, and some of the board members do, but I want to go back and review some stuff. So we'll all get back in the same track here and know where we are. And here's the chair of the election committee. Yeah. Okay. You want to sit next to her?
Yeah, Dave.
Dave?
Apparently not.
Look at a chair.
Sure.
The chair.
Oh, there.
Do you need that one? There's another one right there.
Sitting here better.
Just pull that one back there. Will you need that one? No. Okay. Let me talk about why this group came about and what we're really doing here, okay? You all know, or I'm not going to go into too much details about the community center referendums that happened and failed and the situation we went into a few years ago, okay? When that didn't happen, the board decided in November, a couple of years ago, that let's look into getting this building here, the one was here before, fixed. And that was in November of 2 years ago, I believe. Right, Marty, you know what it was? 2007. Whatever. Anyway, and we went into how are we going to get these things done, okay? And we entered into what's called the design build process, where we went out and we got some ideas of what we wanted this, how to fix up the old community hall. And we made up a scope of work, went out to a bunch of builders, they came in, made bids, and one of the builders who was making a bid on the rehab also made a bid to build it from scratch, layman. We looked at all that kind of stuff and we evaluated it, and that's what we decided to do. And now you're in a new building. The bad news is if you're hearing a lot of noise from the pine tones who are out here, pine tones? No, the pine steppers. Who are out here doing something out there. Every room in this building is full right now. Bad, that's the good news. Bad news is you might hear some noise. But anyway, we got something done. It wasn't what we really wanted in the long haul, but we got something done that was suitable, acceptable, and feasible.
It wasn't all some wanted, it was more than some wanted. I mean,
This.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's.
okay, but we got it was less than others wanted. Okay, but anyway, we did something that was doable. All right, so when that was over, we said, okay, we got a lot of other problems, and what are we going to do to solve these other problems? So we decided to start a 10-year major facilities rehabilitation process. Okay, and our goals and intent were, first of all, to have this thing be as transparent as possible, step by step, so everybody in the community know what the heck we're doing. Okay? And the plan to repair or replace anything should be long-term. We didn't want to do any more Band-Aid fixes and get stuck with spending money and then 3 or 4 years spending some more money and we thought that was done and it wasn't, or whatever, okay? We wanted to get community involvement, and that's what we're doing right now. And we wanted then to provide for board oversight and decision-making, which we have, because this committee is made up of different people. We go back to the general manager, we go back to the board, at each step where a decision needs to be made, okay? And it's done in public. And then we're going to complete the 10-year plan for all these facilities. It's a plan. We come up with a plan for funding it, and then as we go along, we change things. But at least we have a plan. So the history is, in 2008, we began this process. In 2008 also, we formed a 10-year task force. In 2009, we started our initial evaluation of all our major facilities. A year ago tomorrow, the 10-year task force met in the Yacht Club upstairs on a beautiful day, and the 10-year task force briefed the board on where we are to date and asked for permission to proceed on certain planning parameters. Okay? And then they said, go ahead. And then we started the detailed evaluation of selected facilities, and we started working closely on the Yacht Club options. All right? Now this chart here is the same one I used a year ago tomorrow. Because we said, based on what we thought we knew, we wanted to work at the beach club first, as far as looking at it goes. We wanted to fix the bathrooms up. You've heard all those complaints about how bad the bathrooms are. We had a lot of complaints about the parking lot, etc. We wanted to look at that and take a look and see what we can get done. We said the Yacht Club was next, then the Country Club, then the Swimming Racket Complex, and then continue to evaluate and prioritize all the other facilities. But as soon as we got through doing that, after the 20th of March last year, we went around and we found we learned more. For example, we found the Swim Racket Club complex was in really bad shape. We had an engineer go over there, look at it, we looked at it ourselves, and we found out some of the pilings, for example, you could take a screwdriver and stick them right through. Boom. I mean, it was some serious problems. We found out that we were having a swim meet over there last summer, and we said, we can't put people on the marina side of that deck up there, or it'd be dangerous. So we put tape up there, blocked them off, and we said, that's what we gotta do first. So, because we went and looked at this stuff, we moved this up to here. Okay, and that's being done right now. It should be finished in the next few weeks, and it's gonna be a very well-done facility that's gonna last at least 40 years, if not more. If anybody, they don't want you over there, they chased me out of there yesterday, but it really looks nice as far as the pool side goes, okay? But so we learned, we examined, we moved up. We studied the beach club. We actually had plans drawn up, and we had them priced out for a new bathhouse, and we decided, because of the situation in the economy now and all that, that is what we want, but we're not going to do it. That's now been moved way down. We evaluated the parking lot. Many people wanted the parking lot fixed up. Some said that's a waste of money. We said, let's find out, let's identify the cost and figure this out, and we did. And we've also decided that's going to be delayed too. All right? So then we started with the Yacht Club. This is a chart from last year also. We decided that in order to evaluate this thing and come up with the scope of work, we got to decide how we're going to use the Yacht Club. We decided, the board agreed, that our intent was for year-round dining and catering. So you all know, a few years ago, we used to shut it down and use the country club in the winter. But we decided this is where we're going to go. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to eventually go that way, but that's what we agreed to proceed on. First floor, we wanted to make it more family-friendly, like booths and stuff, but we just thought about that. Second floor would be for catering and overflow dining, sort of like it is now. We wanted to make sure we had good support for the yacht club, pool, and the Mumford's Landing pool. We wanted to support boaters. So those were the basic uses we were going to build this scope of work up on. And then we thought the needs of the Yacht Club were, as far as what the problems over there are, is we needed a master plan for the whole area to see how it all fit in. We wanted to take a look at all those decks around there. We knew we were getting in bad shape. We wanted to have an entrance canopy. Some of you know we even designed one up and put it in last year's budget. We didn't do that, I'll tell you why. Was it this year's budget or last year's budget?
Last year.
Last year just ended a couple days ago,
Yeah, right, last year's budget.
a couple weeks ago.
We wanted to evaluate all systems. We knew the HVAC system was bad, the heating and cooling. We wanted to evaluate the inside potential as far as, we had some problems over there in restrooms and all that kind of stuff, and evaluate the outside bar and those other lower deck options. So those are what we thought our major needs were, but, what are we going to do? So we started examining things. We found out we had some other problems. We found out the foundation and the pilings were in really bad shape. Right after we looked at the Swim and Racket Club, we said, let's go over and check the Yacht Club. For example, you go into the front, go up those stairs on the left, that foundation area had not been fixed. The posts underneath, after you hit them with a big screwdriver, you can take your fist and put it right through the post. Some of those 4x4s were rotting out. Okay? Now, we thought that all those things had been fixed 3 or 4 years ago. They weren't. They fixed some of them. They fixed the side by the bar, for example, the outside bar. We went in there last May and we took out those pilings in the front and we replaced them with a cap and built a concrete wall. And we went around and we reshored all those 4x4 posts with 2 more sister posts. All around, because that deck could have fallen if there's a big wedding up there or something like that, or that heavy reefer in front. There's some serious problems over there. Right now, we believe it's safe, but we still believe we need to go do that work. We almost did that work this year. We have recommendation, let's go over and get that done now. And we said, wait a minute, if we're going to look at the big picture, let's wait to see if it would be more cost effective to do it later. All right? The next thing we were going to replace last year, last winter, was the heating and cooling system. It's on its last legs. Will it last another season? I think so, but I don't know. But it's very old, very inefficient. For those of you who go to the yacht club, you know you're too cold in the winter and maybe too cold in the summer, or it depends. It doesn't make sense. There's nothing coming out of the floor. It's bad. It needs to be fixed. Okay? Insulation. Insulation in the place is horrible. Underneath you've got insulation falling down. It's really bad. Okay? The first floor kitchen and the restroom floor is sagging to the degree we're concerned it's going to fall through. So that's got to be ripped up, new joists put in, boards. It's got to be done. And along with that, if anybody goes to the yacht club very often, you know we've got a problem in the restrooms with odors and stuff like that that makes the place not very pleasant. The wiring system is 40 years old, or is it older? Pretty old, and it's a Rube Goldberg mess in there. It's okay for a little while, but it's not going to be good for the next 30, 40 years. All right? And then we got the deckings on the first and second exterior floors all around. All right? They're getting old. They're not very attractive. They'll probably have to be replaced in the next few years anyway. So we said if we're going to do any work over there, we might as well get it done now. All right? So those are kind of the things we thought were really needed to be done. All right? So, we made up a scope of work. And based upon the uses we talked about, that the board said, let's go ahead and let's plan for those. Let's make sure we have a long-term solution. Anything we do is not going to last, for a few years and we just do it again. Think about that now when we come to some of these options that we're going to go into more detail about. No Band-Aid fixes. In January, we developed the scope of work, and that scope of work reflected a phased approach, an exterior phase and an interior phase. An exterior phase with all the decks to be replaced. We figured as long as we're replacing those with composite wood that will last 40 years, we probably ought to do the tiki bar over again. That deck, it's on 40-inch centers right now for joists. It really needs to be done right. And we might as well, on the area that's on the water, you know how crowded it gets sometime in the summertime? We might as well extend that deck out so you've got, I don't know how many more square feet out there, but a lot for people to gather out there in the same level as the main bar, as the outside bar. So those were enhancements. Those weren't just maintenance. Those were enhancements because if we're going to do all this work, our thought was long term. Okay? We went out to bid. We had about 30 contractors show up for the bid. From those 30, 9 came back and gave us some kind of proposals. One proposal was one piece of paper. One proposal, I believe, said that I'm not going to bid on your rehab package, but if you want to rebuild it, I'll do that. And of the 7 or 8, I guess, which came back, 2 of them said, I recommend that you not waste your money on a rebuild, on a rehab, but you do much better on a rebuild. More wise investment of your money for the long term. Is that kind of right? Yeah. Okay. So we evaluated those bids. We narrowed them down to the three best. They came in at wide ranges, but when you go out with what's called the design build process, you give the people that you're working with the scope, and using their own funds and their own time and effort, they come back and give you plans and ideas of how they think it should be done. That means we haven't spent any money yet. Whereas on the community center over here, the first thing we went out, we had architectural design, you pay $100-some thousand for that. Then you go out to bid, and then you get the bids back, and the bids are easier to interpret because you've already told them exactly what you want. But you spend a lot of money and maybe you can't do it. So we like the design build concept because it may require us to do more work. We can get a lot more different ideas, and we can spend less money in getting that done. And that's what we're doing. Okay. Based upon the three we narrowed it down to, the bids went anywhere from $1,100,000 to about 1.8. 1,800,000. Okay. That's a big difference. So we narrowed it down and made sure we knew that they're apples to apples, and people had different kind of things in. The cheap bid, for example, had wooden decks, and the more expensive one had composite wood of the best type, that type of thing. So we narrowed it all down. We said, okay, we think that Lehman gave us the best bid. So if we go with the rehab, and if you think it's a good idea, if it's approved in the major rehab we're talking about, if it's approved by the community, then we will go with Lehman, and we'll do that. Lehman is going to give you a presentation on what that would look like and all the details in a little while. All right? Because they also said that we would like to redesign the thing, so we tear it down and build a new one for you, and we could do it at about this cost. We aren't sure because we haven't designed it yet. The board met and said, okay, let's do our due diligence, let's look at a new building, and we tasked them to do that also. Now that cost us some money. That cost us $4,000 for us to do that. That's a good investment, in our opinion. Let's look at the other options, okay? So where are we? We have major rehab. We're going to look at that option. We're going to show it to you. You're going to see what it looks like, and we're going to see what you think. A tear down rebuild. We got things on that too. We're going to show you. See what you think. Then we got to talk about maintenance only and what you think about that. And then maybe somebody's going to come up with some other options. I don't know. But that's okay, because the 10-year task force is going to take this input, and next week on the 27th, we're going to meet and discuss which way we should go. Then the 10-year task force is going to meet with the board and brief the board on what the task force recommendations are. And then the board can decide what they want to do. So we don't know. We don't have the answer yet. We aren't there. That's why we're here. We want, this is the community involvement part. Okay? Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
Well, we're looking at alternatives that include maintenance only. And in your previous comments, you pointed out the parts of the club that were really in serious shape. What condition is the roof in?
The roof is in good shape.
So the roof can survive.
Yeah. But I want to talk about this and the implications of that when we get there. Okay. Marty, you got any questions?
Not now. I don't like maintenance only term. I mean, it's a rehab, no matter, you're still doing the railings, you're still doing the piling.
Okay, well, that's what we have to make sure we understand what we're talking about here, because
I mean, you can't call that maintenance.
Cross it out to say minor rehab. As
Or
it's needed
rehab. I mean, you know,
required. Well, you know,
it's a pretty major rehab.
Oh, well, that's what we're gonna get to.
But it ain't the major rehab I saw tonight.
Right, right. Okay, so what we're gonna present to you right now is a major rehab. A major rehab that will reflect what we think, the 10-year task force thinks, would be good for the next 40 years. If we do something less than that, we figured in 15, 20 years, we'll be back having the same talk. We don't think that's very smart.
And what's the price tab on that?
On what?
The major rehab?
We're gonna get there.
Oh,
I want you to see it first.
good sell, Jimmy.
All right, well, Bill, you want to?
More than $10.
Okay. And you can come. I was going to donate.
Okay, with major rehab, basically, we're sticking with the basic structure that is there.
Can you hear that back there?
I'll talk.
You're gonna be speaking to this?
Yeah.
It's awfully difficult for anybody beyond probably the first.
If anybody wants to get up and come on up and look closer, that's what we're here for, okay? Come on up. Come on, squeeze on up.
What we prepared here is basically our answer to the RFP that the board put out, that's the requested proposal. We read what they had outlined, and we prepared our bid. Based on this bid, as you notice in our bid, we did redesign the front end of the building. This is the bay side. I continually call this the front end. I know the other side's the front end. But anyhow, we are doing some roof work here. One of the items in the RFP was to remove the stairs to the widow's walk. So a lot of work was going to be done on the roof anyhow in terms of patching and so on. We figured while we're right there patching, we might as well try to change the facade a little bit. This is an example of what we proposed. They also had asked in the RFP to increase the size of the restaurant downstairs and upstairs. And this was kind of a misunderstanding of what they had expected. We actually wrapped the corner and increased the size a little bit more than they had wanted. We'll come back to that too from the inside. This is the new tiki bar. They wanted a larger one. And we actually had raised the whole deck up to the same level as the first floor deck, and that's in discussion as to whether that's a good idea or whether to keep it down. But it doesn't matter. The bar itself would be rebuilt. And then as we swing back on around to the back side, you see the drive-through entrance. And one of the items that we wanted to do also in this entrance, you have a 32-inch rise to get your deck back here. And if we would raise the drive itself up about half of that, then we could have a code legal ramp from the drive-through into the area, and you could get rid of your ramp that you have built there now. I spoke to the county about the possibility of raising this and got assurance that would be probably approved if proper engineering was done. So our proposal included raising that level. We're going to swing through the entrance now and come into the new entrance. What we tried to do with the drive-through is to come up with a design that kind of looked like it belonged with the rest of the building. It is a rather imposing structure, so as you can get a 14-foot vehicle through it, if you have to drive a bus through it, if you have a group of entertainers or something like that, that's what they'll come in. You don't want them to take the top of their bus off, so you do need that height. And coming into the entrance, we'll go into the restaurant downstairs.
Can you stop there for a minute, Bill?
Yep. You want it inside?
No, you just back out into that hallway again for a second. I know this is gonna screw you up going backwards. One of the things this contains is two separate heating and HVA systems, one for upstairs and one for downstairs. And the reason for that is we waste so much energy cost over there. For instance, in the month of January, Ocean Pine spent $8,000 on a gas bill for the current Yacht Club and $6,000 in February. That's $14,000. In 7 months in this building, we spent $12,000. Okay, so there's a tremendous amount of lost energy over there. So part of this plan was to be able to segregate the main floor from from the second floor. So if we didn't have a function, if we weren't catering that night, we didn't need to have the temperature lowered down. And if you think about it right now, if you walk in there and you go upstairs, both the feeds and return are on the second floor. So you're trying to pump all the way to the first. So part of this entrance here was to be able to come in and seal it off so we weren't spending a ton of money long-term on energy and heating unused space. So, go ahead. I know, I should have just talked right over it. That's what I'll do the rest of the way.
It takes a while to restart, I think. That's the restart the engine.
If you need help with that, Bob can help you. Where's Teresa? Nice guy.
For some reason, it takes a while to get started. Anyway, let's get back going into the restaurant downstairs. Again, the space is exactly the same as you have now. We did put a vestibule, an airlock at the entrances. That's something we've been discussing. It's not exactly required by the code, although the code does require airlocks now when you go into areas larger than 3,000 square feet. This isn't. An airlock would be a good idea though for energy. That's the existing bar that's there now. There isn't a lot of changes there. Going upstairs. Just go right up through the floor. One of the features of that building, of course, is that you have a forest of posts. And there isn't anything that can be done with that forest of posts. They have to be there. They can't be removed because of the pile capacity that you have the building sitting on. You can't take loading off of one piling and add it to the next because they're already overloaded as far as code is concerned. From an engineering standpoint, they're fine, but the codes require a lot of different things. This is looking in the banquet area over into that corner that we had enlarged. That makes a nice feature. And this is going up then to the mezzanine level and looking around up there. And then I think we fly back outside. But this was our interpretation of the RFP and our proposal of what we thought we would do with the structure. Keeping in mind that with a rehab, and I'll just leave it run. The rehab does work with the existing facility. And as long as you don't do a lot of structural work, the code doesn't really require you to analyze the structure a lot, so you don't get yourself into a lot of problems. However, there are things, if you're looking at a rehab the last 30 and 40 years, there are piling issues that the RFP quite honestly didn't address. And they've come up since then, and I suspect they'll be speaking of that later. So, but our original RFP included the grade beam continuation around the exterior, and that's basically about the total of the subterranean work that we had proposed doing, except in the bathroom and the kitchen areas, we are replacing the floors. Structurally, that's about it. The rest of it is mostly cosmetic, but it's new structure, new covering, I'll put it that way.
Some of what ends up
Pretty much.
happening here is if you think about the building, out front you've got two coolers out front. They get removed and stored. The decks come down completely on all four sides and are completely rebuilt from the ground up. Where we have not reinforced the exterior line of piles, those are all reinforced similar to what we did as an emergency basis last May and also what had previously been done. There's some roof work. You lose the exterior stairwells. There's actually an interior stairwell on your design as is. We've got some brick or stone down there on the front of it. We're using AZEK wrap and AZEK decking there, new columns. Fix the roof up on top here, up around the widow's walk to match it. Down, can you, Bill, if you can go to, yeah, right to the right a little bit where the deck, we expanded the deck out.
True that.
Right in this area there, you can see a handicap walkway going down right in there. That area of the deck right now, if you go out there, you step down and there's kind of like an odd-shaped area that's low. The deck is real wide. What we're
Down this level.
Yeah, down at that level. What we're envisioning is carrying the deck where the bar is now all the way out to the main deck, a little bit like Sunrise is, where you go out and then drop off. And that's going to pick up, I don't know how many square feet,
About 900.
about 900 square feet. It makes sense not to have two different levels if we can pick up that space since we're replacing the deck at that time. The bar is rebuilt and expanded. Inside, we pour a concrete floor, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, Jeff or Bill, concrete floor in the kitchen and in the restrooms when we replace. This includes replacing all of the wiring in the building, replace 95% of the plumbing with the exception of some drains out of the second floor. It includes bringing the bathrooms up to ADA code, which they aren't right now on both the first and the second floor. Separating the airlock, the floors there from the HVAC thing I said earlier. Insulation
between the first and second floor?
Yeah, insulation, soundproofing between the first and second floor, and also in replacing the HVAC system, insulating underneath the main floor where there's a crawl space right now, and also the entire ceiling way up high, insulating that and covering that with drywall, all new light fixtures. It is a major rehab. Basically all that stays is the four walls and portions of the floor. Includes new carpeting, base wood. We've got a wood allowance in there, I believe, correct? And you know, obviously the normal things like painting and all of that stuff. Elevator would remain where it is, as it is in there now. Better entrance, and one of the advantages of the entrance that we have here, by them raising it up, when you pull right in, you're going to have a very gentle slope coming up. If we were to put a canopy on, we probably couldn't get it through the county the way it had been approved before, because the county would like to know how come the people who are not handicapped get to walk under cover, and the people who are have to walk out in the rain. So what Lehman came up with is said, let's just raise the driveway a little, solve two problems. We eliminate the handicap ramp out front. So it was 2 for 1 there on that. So that's kind of it in the major structure there. There are also some things in there as far as we put some budget numbers in for adding booths inside the building. We've done some upgrades in the kitchen. We've got, I think, an epoxy floor in the kitchen area there. We've got tile in the bathrooms. What else?
And the entrance.
And the entrance.
The glass around, is it remain the same, or is it normal pane? Or?
Remains the same except where they have the bump out on the one side, where they're bumping out and picking up the deck part. It remains the same. We have an ad price for that.
Well, this whole,
Yeah, that whole corner there.
this whole side is new in this proposal because of the glass change.
Let me clarify that.
And you can't cut existing glass, so in our proposal, this side of the glass is completely new.
Where we punch out, we use the porch area, the RFP, the request for proposal, as punching out this area. You can see where the porch is right there. This area around the corner and the two bays in the front are all new area, and so that's all new glass.
When you were doing the RFP, was there any consideration given to a cost overrun as a result of termite damage that you might run into as you get into, particularly between that first and second level?
We have some contingencies in there.
All right.
For things that you don't know that are unusual.
And when we talk a little bit about pricing, you'll see we've got a hefty contingency on this.
You have reason to believe there are some.
That's why I asked the question.
We did have a pile survey done, though. We had somebody come in and look at the piles in there. And part of what they did also in the report is take a look at the joists and things in there, and that's part of the identification process.
Was the structural deterioration caused by mold at all? Mold?
No sign of any mold. Just what it ended up is a typical thing where you've got a pile exposed above grade, and after 40 years, it's very similar. I'll give you an example. Over at the Swim and Racket Club, Bill and I, one Saturday or Sunday morning, went over. We couldn't believe this report that the piles were so bad, so we went over and crawled underneath there and started sticking screwdrivers in with this plan in our hand and hoping we didn't get arrested for being over there. But what ended up happening, when they went and cut those piles off and dug down 2 feet where they weren't exposed to the air to cap them, they were fine. And that's kind of what we found when we did the emergency work last May, is once we got those piles cut off below grade and poured a concrete cap, we were good to go. And I believe that's all of the reports we've gotten back have been good.
So in a major rehab, we're planning on doing that to all the piles. right?
Exterior. Exterior piles.
Yeah, your RFP
One of
requires
the ones under the.
the perimeter.
One pile
How
underneath.
about the ones under the kitchen?
No, the RFP didn't require it. We floor is replaced and a structure of the floor.
That's still a little concern of ours, to make sure that, so we didn't closely examine all those piles. That's a little bit, we gotta make sure that if we do a 30, 40-year fix, those piles have to last, but we're looking at that too. Anything else on this building right here?
Yeah, one
John.
question. The entranceway, Ken, how much the change is going to be in the entranceway? Not where the portico is, but when you walk in?
Foyer,
The foyer
gathering area?
Yeah. I saw the doors going upstairs. What other change is gonna be there?
The doors actually don't, there aren't any doors going upstairs. The doors are to the
Let me have that drawing right
You're in the building somewhere.
Let me have that drawing right there.
This is a good floor plan.
This is the floor plan of the remodel you see on the screen there. But basically, we're taking this door right now, John, is back, we're pushing it out, okay? And then we're moving this wall over, so the kitchen's bigger, okay? But we're essentially not much change there.
I'm assuming that the French doors leading in the dining room are part of the isolating the heating
Yes.
systems and the sound problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sound in particular.
And one other thing I didn't mention, and when you get up to that loft area, up on the third area, one of the things is we use that for catering and for weddings, and one of the early things we heard back from our food and beverage people was there was no place for the bride to change and the wedding party to change. So we have what is called a staff changing room, and it's called a staff changing room because we cannot have a bridal suite up there, but we have a space up there.
Well, I actually don't think you need to have a staff
Yeah,
changing
we
room.
have a room upstairs that somebody could walk into, so if they happen to wander up that way.
Yes,
The expansion area on the side, do we have any kind of numbers to indicate the relative cost of
yes.
making it bigger as opposed to leaving it the same, and why
Yes,
do
we
we
do.
need bigger?
Yes, we do. Those are add options for the downstairs expansion and the upstairs expansion. They can be taken out and not done, okay?
And that's part of what we're sitting in trying to figure out.
What was the thinking of the group as to why it had to be bigger?
Okay, if you're removing the decks anyway, you gotta replace the joists and all that. So, you're talking about down this area down in here?
The other side.
Talking about down here,
Yeah, right, Bill, yeah, same thing, Bill, right there and that
right
little
there.
curve.
So if you punch it out, you've gotta rebuild, you gotta put joists in, all that kind of stuff. So for construction-wise, it'd be cost-effective to provide more room. Now, figure if you're coming there for dinner and we make our dining experience more pleasant, you know, and in the next 40 years, think about how nice these tables would be. These would be the ideal tables to be out here, glass around here, looking out there. These would be very attractive, and it would also allow us to have more room. I've been there for the last couple of weeks, and the place is just packed in there. And we figured this was cost effective.
Okay.
And then we said, we asked them, could you do it just downstairs, not upstairs? And the answer was, yeah, we could just do it downstairs.
And they've broken the pricing out to us both, and you'll see when we get to the pricing that the cost there is less than $50 a square foot, okay? Which, anybody that knows, you know, the differential between going deck, because by the time you credit the AZEC back and go with a floor, so.
I don't know if you mentioned or not, my other question in relation to this was I'm assuming on this major rehab, all that $150,000 or $200,000 worth of siding we put on there is going to be
Yes,
taken off, right?
It wasn't nearly that much, but yes, the answer is
Yeah.
yes.
Good.
completely.
And there'll be some sort of a cedar,
They've got in there cedar impression siding.
Cedar
and
impression siding.
They've also got some stone trim. he mentioned AZAC. A few years, 10 years ago, there was just Trex, just about, you know. Now there's all kinds of stuff, and some of the best stuff made right now is made by a company that calls it AZEK, A-Z-E-K. And they put in, we suggested that in the RFP, that's what they probably don't think about using. It is good stuff. It'll last forever, not forever, but it'll last 30, 40 years, and it'll be beautiful.
And one final thing, even with the addition of that drive-through area, from what I saw, if you're coming into the parking lot and you're walking up to the place, it still looked to me like it needs some pizzazz or something on that front. Still sort of looks like a barracks from the parking lot side, but
Well,
That's one of the differences.
I saw the same thing.
yeah, that view right
You
there.
remember, we were talking about some options before on the front where we put some kind of something on the front. We're talking about this area over here,
Right.
and we could jazz up a little bit with some architectural features.
Two things we ran into. One of the problems with this portico is that if we notice, and they put a little eave there in the front to try to cut it down. That portico has to be high enough to drive a fire truck under it, okay? Now, in all likelihood, no one, if that building's on fire, you're not going to drive, you're going to park the fire truck 7 feet away and not pull it underneath a structure. But by code, it has to be. And so that thing has a tendency to overwhelm a little the front of the building. So what we talked about in one of the meetings is over to the right, putting some decorative stuff there, possibly doing a porthole type thing or some other architectural features on the front. So
Because that's what people see when they come up.
One of the biggest problems we ran into is both of those freezers are up there. And that, we even looked at the possibility of rotating those freezers to the other side. And it just didn't work because then we ended up running into kitchen problems in trying to get because you wouldn't be lined up with the kitchen.
To jazz that up, Joe, would not take a lot of money. Right. We could do that.
We've already talked to them about it.
Could you make an arch out of it instead of having all these square, flat surfaces?
We can do a lot of things.
Well, that might break it up.
We thought of signage there, Ocean Pines Yacht Club, and
Yeah, we kept everything triangular, because that's what the building is now. You do have some arched top windows on the townhouses across the bay. I've taken pictures of a lot of stuff around here just to get a feel of what you have here. Yeah,
oh,
keep it arched.
yeah, instead of keeping it square,
Yeah.
sure. That's not a lot of money.
The value of what we did here was it's designed to the degree that we could price it out and we can always tweak it. Okay, we're going to tweak it, but now we know what we can do, or what if we want to do something, we know what it's going to cost. Any more questions about this particular option?
As a follow-on, this is not a bad idea to keep this way because environmentally, that's the north side of the building. And you're going to get a lot of cold coming in that direction if you have windows there, for example. So you'd have to be real careful about the type of window that you put in.
So they'd be more decorative.
Yeah, there'd be fake windows actually.
Okay, anything else on this particular option? Yes, sir.
In the dining area where you said there was a lot of bridal parties at the two-story, the wide open area, and the HVAC, are you, most of the heat will go up to the top. You're changing.
We're going to change the have two complete systems, or is it how many systems?
Yeah, upstairs there's two complete systems.
Okay, we're going to make it so there's an airlock so air can't go up through those stairs. Okay, we're going to change, right now I think on the first floor all the air comes from the ceiling. It's going to come from the floor. And the place where the staff dressing area or the bridal changing area would be, and the reason why we're careful we're saying is because if you call it a bridal changing area, you have to have ADA access. Okay, and therefore we can't do it.
Because the elevator stops at the second floor.
The elevator stops at the second floor. But that's where a lot of the HVAC equipment is now. So that pulls out and the space is there. So we might want to use it.
We're also talking hanging duct, right? Is that what
that's what I was trying to put inside, but I can't get through the window. This is what they call a sock.
Duck sauce.
a duck saw, and we anticipated using those so we could actually get them down at least about the top of the window, so we weren't trying to shoot heat from the roof clear down to the floor, trying to get it somewhat lower.
Ted, that second picture there, if you pick that up? No, the picture. When you're standing there and you're looking out toward the street, right there, you see that bulkhead? Right there above your thumb.
All right.
Right there.
Right here, yeah, that all disappears.
It all disappears, because that's, right now, those are HVAC ducting, that'll go away, and that area will be raised up. So, you know how it is, they have the band in there sometime, you know, but that would be fixed.
And to the extent possible, we're gonna, to the extent possible, recess
Yes.
as much as possible the sprinkler system that you now see hang down there. Recess that, recess the lighting, put some soundproofing in between the two floors as well.
Where would the air conditioning come out, from the floor as well?
Up under, yeah, on the first floor, up underneath.
No.
No, air conditioning's up on top?
Yeah,
Okay.
on the downstairs and the restaurant level, remember we were proposing using the ductless system around the
Okay,
perimeter.
the ductless system.
And then upstairs, there would be this sock
Okay.
area here, but it shoots down and up.
So you're doing it the right way.
Good, that's a good.
Major redo. Tom?
What kind of HVA system, are we gonna keep the one we've got and reduct it, or what are we doing with it?
No, our proposed one that stands right now is all heat pumps, so that could very well change, but that's what we submitted.
We're also, one other thing, just so that you know, we are actively looking at a geothermal system, okay? We're going out for prices to look long-term, just as we did here. But I don't know whether it'll be cost-effective or not, but we are looking to do due diligence and get that number so we have some kind of idea where we stand.
How about solar on the roof?
Haven't really looked at it, and then go to the roof view. You've got the space. The question is, architecturally and visually, is that...
That's your roof, that's your south roof right there.
That's your south roof right there, which is the water side, so as you face it from the water, so...
You wouldn't,
Can't see it unless you're in a helicopter.
you wouldn't use, you wouldn't get enough out of solar to do much of your heating. You'd heat hot water with it and use it and supply a substantial amount of your hot water. In fact, it may supply all your hot water. But to actually do anything for space heating with the solar, it would take more than that.
And what are we doing as far as water? Are we on demand?
Yeah, they're all on
Yeah.
demand.
On demand on the unit, so if you look at HDTV and the new ones they're putting in that are on demand, that's what they're doing as far as the hot water, so we won't be storing hot water, you know. at time.
Any more
Yeah,
questions on this
yeah, you'll
option?
get hot water.
All right. Should we do a price of this option now?
No, go and then I'll get to them, I don't wanna have everybody.
Okay. Let's go to the tear down and rebuild.
We'll get the defibs first.
Hard to see.
Did you not like them?
This is a new proposed building. How many square feet is this building?
16,000. The existing is 18,900.
It's got a lot of more space.
That's the differential.
Is this a new building?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that square footage number again.
16,000 for new, or for rebuild, 18,900 for the rehab.
Okay, of course, this is Bayside, and we'll swing around. One thing we've decided to incorporate within the structure itself is the bar area. And what we've proposed here is a bar that actually utilizes folding glass door partitions. At the summertime, these would be open, so this would be an open bar, and there'd also be partitions inside that you could close, so that you could air condition the building and this bar would be outside. And then in the wintertime, you close these doors and everything would be heated. That's in comparison to the tiki bar that you have now. And then swinging around to the back, actually the entrance is pretty much similar to the existing. In fact, the drive-through is about the mimic.
Well, you don't have any of the decks there, okay? And
No.
so you don't also have
Right.
you've got glass over there, that's on
We
the outside
basically
of the-
utilize your building right now is 90 by 90, if you include all your exterior decks. And we basically utilize that 90 by 90 postage stamp completely. And our proposed, we're not going to reuse the pilings because one of the limitations you have in an existing building is the piling capacity that you have right now. New building codes require all floors to be designed to a 100-pound live load. Well, if you have 2 floors and your piles are on 10-foot on centers, you really have 20,000 pounds of live load on that pile, and that is the capacity of your piling, and you didn't build anything on it. So your pilings, that's why I say they don't meet code as stands now. It also means if you build something new, you can't use the pilings. So our proposal now would be to dig down, cut the pilings off, cover them with sand, and build everything on a spread footer. And we've been working with local engineers here to make sure that that's possible.
You still got
This
the
is
columns
downstairs
inside?
Bar area. Here would be the doors that you'd close in the summertime so that you could air condition this side and the other side would be open. They happen to be hanging open here right now.
The question was about the pile of the.
Are the columns still on the inside? In the new
In the
building?
bottom, yeah, there are still a few columns there because I got to hold up the floor, the second floor. But there's actually, in this design, there are 5 posts downstairs, and I think we're going to eliminate one of those yet. There'll be 4 posts downstairs in comparison to,
How many we have now?
I don't know, at least
Every
24.
10 feet.
24, I
Every
think.
10 feet.
24 maybe,
I
but
think,
yeah.
So we'd also end up having in the wintertime 2 bars indoors.
Yes. Well, it'd be 1 bar, because in the wintertime, you just leave that door open.
This door right.
This door has to be
right
open
here.
Yeah.
and close the outside, if it all be one large bar. And then this is looking out through the restaurant. Of course, we haven't laid out the restaurant at all. We put a fireplace at the other end. This is the wood floor around the fireplace. What we're envisioning is to have a couple distinct areas in that restaurant, but sort of have different atmospheres. Have a booth area, maybe then have out in this area, of course, that's prime real estate out there. Maybe have, just 2 chair tables out there for the husband and wife. Keep the kids back in the other areas. This is backing out then into the entrance. We can't get a 2-story entrance with this building because we don't have the columns to contend with. That's coming in the front door. Stairway going up, we'd utilize a large chandelier, which we didn't draw any chandelier. This is a service desk. This is a new elevator. We spent a lot of time trying to design around the existing elevator because I was trying from the start to utilize at least something from the present building, and we just couldn't do it. The elevator was just in the wrong place and it's turned the wrong way. So in the final analysis, we scrapped the elevator and pushed it forward and turned it 90 degrees and saved ourselves a lot of space. The crunch is in the kitchen. If there's deficiencies in the design, it's in the kitchen right now. Basically, what we've done for the last 2.5 weeks is try to come up with square footage and volume. To say that this is a finished design would be totally misleading you because it's not. We wanted to get something that we could put a number to because we do understand those, and also make sure that I understood the structure well enough that we were proposing something that could honestly be built. You can decorate it in the inside, and we have a long time to get to the details, but this is the shell structure that we're proposing.
That's the bay side right there.
That's looking like the second floor does have a balcony, but that's all it is. It's a balcony.
But does this mean that the second floor, the first floor in this case,
The second floor is banquet hall.
Getting air conditioning?
They still are.
Yes, they are.
They still are.
The only thing that's 2-story is the entry.
Right.
To give you more of a grand entrance when you walk in, gives you more spaciousness. You can look up to the balcony that goes into the second floor, but it's all closed off, so it is.
In fact, this was closed off on both floors. Where the rehab, we still didn't close off the second floor. We only have it closed off the first floor. But this would be closed off at both floors.
Because you're building new here, would you be putting in a bridal changing room? Well, I mean, it was
Right
mentioned in the
now, I
other
don't,
one.
right now, I don't have one.
No third floor.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, that was always something I
Yeah.
think that.
We wanted it because the space was there in the old building. We wanted to
Yeah.
fill it with something. We don't have,
But I keep hearing when I sit in on the clubs committee, that it's very important for the wedding receptions here to have that type of space.
We've got a store, this is, and I know this is hard to see from where you are, but this is where you come in the front here. And this is kind of like a little place where the seater would be here. The kitchens moved from this side of the building to the other side of the building. And that's primarily so we could get the walk-in freezers and everything else over there and get the flow to work a little better and to get the restrooms set up. And in both of these designs, if you're on the outside area here, you don't have to walk through the restaurant to get to the restrooms anymore. You can get to the men and women's restrooms right from the outside of the building. And this is the bar area we're talking about in here. Right here is where you can close it off with a door right here. So you could be sitting at the inside bar, dining here during the summer. There's a neat little area right here. And then this would all be outside where you'd have like tables like you would see in a normal bar, high top tables you'd see, where you can get 2 or 4 people around them. And then during the winter, this would close up and this would open up and give you one bar for the entire winter. Now upstairs, when you go up, you come up the stairs, you've got an open foyer here. There's one office back here, which I think there's 1 or 2 there now, but there's one office for whoever's running it. The elevator is here. There's the warming kitchen, which is a little more than a warming kitchen. We had hoped very much to try to limit ourselves to one kitchen and just really a warming kitchen on the second floor, but we're so cramped in space on the first floor down here that we're not really set up to be able to cater 160 people upstairs and still run the restaurant downstairs. Marty?
When you say 100, that was my, what is the capacity of that second floor?
100 and, let's see, 180.
No, no, yeah, I know what
Was
you're
it
saying.
180?
Yeah, you can get 180. I
So
get
it's actually got a bigger capacity than the existing
Yeah,
Yacht Club.
with less square footage.
about the same, honestly.
No, you can't get 180 in our second floor. Not unless you go out on the railings.
Yeah, but we don't have the column problem that they do now, so. And it's got the fireplace on both floors here. The warming kitchen, and have we got a dumbwaiter in?
Yeah,
Dumbwaiter in here.
Yeah, that's
so-
not the latest plan.
Yeah, it's in the latest plan, but there's,
There's a plan today.
one of the things we had is we're gonna try to prepare as much downstairs in the major stuff, and there's a dumbwaiter in there to be able to serve it up to the warming kitchen to serve it. Over here, we've got the restrooms, and this is a service bar primarily, similar to what the bar up there does now, a service bar for the restaurant. Another egress out here, and some storage area in here, open to the first floor, open to the first floor, open to the first floor.
Remind me, Ted, where, on either one of those, where is the entertainment? Inside, I'm talking about when I mean either outside or inside.
We're not, outside it can be anywhere, it could be down here where we expanded the deck, which is probably the more likely place. If you remember in one of the very early meetings we had, we even talked about trying to tie up a barge out there to the, or a platform out there. It would be down here, in that open area. Inside, they've just laid out, we can design the inside. They've given us some preliminary things, they've just stuck some stuff in to get the budget on putting booths and stuff in there, but we haven't got far enough to design the inside. For instance, we haven't even decided, if you're running this bar, do you want it to be kind of like a sports bar? Do you want a couple TVs up on the wall during the summer or not? I don't know. So we haven't gotten that far yet. We're looking for clubs committee and other people to come back to us. So we haven't decided. I mean, you could put the band anywhere you want.
Does the outside bar have a permanent roof over it?
Yes.
So you can't sit there in the summer and get a suntan?
Correct.
You have to go to the pool.
You have to
I
step.
think people are a lot of bars in the summer, they want the sun shining on them.
They don't have it now.
Marty?
No, I think, I was wondering what we spend on it. What a bargain that was.
We're just done looking at it.
No, I mean, really, it's really done a lot of work on there.
There's a lot more than this, too.
I'm sure that, but I mean, that's a
There
whole
is,
lot of ground.
well, I want to show here.
Yeah, can you get into the
This
bar
white
there?
fence here is the white fence of the pool, so there is a space even outside of the bar
You can sit outside the circle.
that you can sit outside.
And all along
Lot of
that
space.
side there, you can sit.
Yeah, there's,
See that whole side where there's
Lot
nothing?
of uncovered
Actually,
space.
it's about 15 feet between here and this.
on the fence.
And then, of course, you have a lot of space in front.
And remember,
Can
on
you back
this,
that out?
this
Yeah,
end
can you
as it
back out
backs
that?
out, we've expanded that deck. See where you go around the corner there?
Right there at the bottom.
Tilt down a little again. Okay, right there on the right fence there, that whole area there right now,
Right here?
yeah, right there, over where the white fence is down low right now.
This
All
is
of that,
here. Yeah, in fact, right across.
that all gets raised up, which picks up the extra 900 square feet, which allows us to push the band back, which gives us an opportunity to put it
How does
there.
that affect access to the pool area?
It doesn't, because you're not supposed to be
The
going into
access
the
will stay
pool
the
from
same.
there.
Pool, the access is back here.
Yeah,
No chair.
That gate we have right now is just
not supposed to be using it anyway. You're supposed to have the one access on the outside, so it doesn't hurt us code-wise.
I know what it ain't.
Not the way
It's not run that flag.
Is your banquet hall, the second floor, call it whatever you want to call it, does that still preserve the view that we have there?
Go ahead up and show the.
Yeah, it should be outside. Okay, you
You
still have a
mean the
nice
inside?
view there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on the inside.
yeah, this is 50 feet.
That's what sells the banquets.
Yeah, this is 50 feet.
And the ability to walk outside, right?
And
With that.
Right. There's no way down off of this from the outside. It's strictly a balcony.
Show them the inside.
That's- But the disadvantage is that right now upstairs, this corner here is the best corner. But we lose that because the roof line comes down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're gonna lose these.
yeah.
So you do lose the view out toward the channel. But
But those stairs that are currently blocking the views are not there.
No,
That's right.
So you know how that blocks that view, that
Right
entire
there.
area there?
right there's the view inside.
It's in either case, in the renovation.
And one of the other things we did talk about, right now, this is the little 50-foot deck up there. We did talk about, should we bump this all the way out? And the idea was that a lot of times in the wedding parties, they may want to go out, take pictures out there, you know, be able to stand on the balcony. So the idea was don't bump that wall out to the outside, leave that little second floor balcony up there for use. And on the first floor, you do have some deck in that area.
Ted, how does that affect the fire access,
Fi-
fire exit
Fire exit on which, up here?
on the second floor?
Okay, up here, you've got two. You've got the main entrance one here, and then right over by the service bar, you come right down here and exit out.
Does that meet the code?
Yeah, we haven't gone through code review. I talked to Paul Miller. In fact, I want to get Paul Miller some of these plans just for preliminary review at ASAP. But as far as my reading of the code, we're okay. That balcony will be treated like a room, and they'll calculate the occupancy on the balcony, and one exit from that balcony is sufficient, and then it goes from there. They calculate how far you are to an exit, and we're within. And this will be a fully sprinkled building, which helps us.
And one of the
somewhat,
things,
too.
when you go down this set of stairs here,
It's fully sprinkled.
when you go down this set of stairs here, here's where you come out on the first floor, right at a door.
Right.
Okay, so as soon as you come down, you're right out of the building, and if you come down here, you're right out the front of the building.
And there's a rescue assistance right at the top of the stairs, if anybody knows what that means by the code, it's there.
Joe?
Getting back to the pilings. The pilings are probably one of the things that people,
Let's go to the rehab. Back to the rehab.
no,
The pilings are gone on this one.
not the pilings, the columns.
On the columns.
I don't know what your spans are or what the span combined with the load required above, but did you do any investigation at all as to what kind of a steel joist might span that to give you a full column-free area?
Oh, you mean for downstairs?
Yes.
It's a 40-foot span. And again, in a new building, we could actually raise the eave height some, but I'm still trying to work with a 10-foot from floor to floor, because that drives your stairways and everything else. So that's why I put the columns in downstairs.
There's not many columns in downstairs building.
Well, I don't know, the picture
It looks like a lot.
Looked like a lot of columns.
Yeah, there's 5 in there right now on the
Well, right here
plan.
you are, I mean,
Not
But
really.
to answer your question, the building is going to be a steel building.
Yeah.
So it spans from front to back.
Yeah.
The only reason why we have some of those columns downstairs is to carry the second floor only.
Right.
But the building is a clear span from one end to the other, unlike your building is a post every 10 feet.
Yeah,
This
our-
building is clear.
Our steel
But you
columns carry the
didn't
building
you didn't
inside
mention,
these stone columns.
how much more depth on your steel joist, for example, might it take to eliminate the columns for the second floor load?
Well, they go clear up to the second story, so those.
Columns go all the way through on the second floor as well?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
So
Not-
when I
not
say it's a
these.
steel building.
Not these. Not these.
Not these.
These are strictly holding the second floor on. These, the stone columns are there's steel columns inside those that actually
Right.
carry the building.
And if
So
you
they're
see-
on both floors.
If you see these big columns right here, these are the ones that are actually carrying the building. It's a building is setting like this. When you look at that view there, the main part of the building is being carried by the main columns, and it's all clear span for the steel building. That's why it's a steel building, because that's the only thing we can find is going to clear that and give us the height clearances that we need for some of the things that you're questioning, because that's exactly what I'm trying to stay away from, is head bumpers and head knockers. on the
This
second
column
floor.
right here, I think will disappear. I don't think I need it.
Well-
These back here,
Show
without
them the second
going,
story.
uh,
Show them the second floor.
yeah, see there,
Frames there.
okay.
I just hope if we go
See,
this
upstairs
route,
is
that the
not
board will
bad.
keep this in mind to try to eliminate
Hang
it.
on,
That's all.
Joe,
That's all.
take a look at upstairs, show them upstairs again.
There's not a thing upstairs, it's all open.
Okay.
But downstairs is where we fairly
Yeah,
have.
it'd be four or five columns.
Okay.
Can you, do the calculation on the utility loads or the costs between the new building compared to the renovation?
You mean utility costs for long term?
Right, you save a lot of money by.
No, I haven't yet, but I know that the utility cost for the new building will be less than even the rehab. Number one, the new building is somewhat smaller. It has a whole lot less window area. So those two items alone are gonna drive utilities quite a bit. But I haven't done it yet.
And we are doing this geothermal study, and there's no question in my mind that the proper thing to do in the long haul is geothermal. The trouble is, are you willing to pay another $120,000 or so in upfront cost? The answer is, the answer should be yes, but that doesn't mean it's going to be. You should have done it for this building.
Do you have the property for one story?
Do we have a cost for one
Do you have
story?
the property to do a
No,
one story?
no.
Okay.
We don't. And one story probably would cost us more than two stories. Double
Well,
foundation, and double roof.
The problem you're gonna run into with that is, the stormwater runoff and everything that's gonna be involved. We're trying to build with the same impervious area and all that kind of stuff.
If you had no footprint problem and no money problem, we'd do it a lot different. I mean, everything we're doing here has got to be a compromise. A give and take on some things. Got it. Okay, so we've covered the rehab and the tear down rebuild. Let me quickly cover the maintenance before you do that. Let's talk about the rehab, and if we wanted to do required minimum rehab, I don't know how you want to phrase that, Marty, but you want to, let's just say.
You call it maintenance, I'd call
Ma-
it what we need.
What we need to rehab. Let's talk about we need to rehab the HVAC.
That's what
Well,
we budget.
if you rehab the HVAC, you got to put a new system in there, and the current system is even designed, layout's horrible. You got to design it right so it's going to last for 30 or 40 years, and you got to take down those bulkheads and things, and then why wouldn't you want to fix the wiring too? Because if you take all that stuff down to do that work, why wouldn't you want to bring the wiring up to code? Yes.
When you say wiring, there's a lot of wiring in that building.
Yeah.
Nobody would put in new HVAC system without putting in new service to the air conditioning systems.
Well, to do that, then.
But that doesn't mean you have to run new service to the lighting.
Well,
That's, I mean, the difference is night and day. The difference is 50,000 versus 100,000.
Right.
You need to run new service to your HVAC systems.
Do you want to tear all that stuff out and not put another $50,000 in to make the wiring last for 40 years? That's the dilemma we have here, okay, on maintenance. Now let's look at the bathrooms. If we accept the fact that we got to take out those floors in the kitchen and the bathroom because they're sagging and bad, do we go ahead and make those bathrooms not just a little bit nicer, but we rip out all those that plumbing and stuff, and we can put tile floors down and do it right? What do we do?
I thought that earlier it was said that they don't meet code anyway, so.
Well, they don't, but
what
you see, there's a
happens
thing on code, if
we
you
rehab?
do a certain percent of maintenance and minor rehab, you don't have to bring everything else up to ADA. So you can slip, but it doesn't make sense, to me, it doesn't make sense, okay? Yes, Marie.
Would that rehab in the, let's say with the plumbing in the bathrooms, would that finally eliminate the backup of the methane gas into the building?
Yes, that's one of the things we feel we have to do.
How do you not get rid of an obvious problem?
You've got to, no, that is a must-do.
That's a need.
It's a need.
On this maintenance, what you were going after is, do they have a plan like that, that if there's a minimum requirement that has to be redone, and doing it, you know, the best job we can do, what is the cost of that? Is that what you're going to share with us?
we want to.
Yeah, the minimum requirements and what should be done at the same time.
I'm getting you, you're right.
That's an excellent question. You spent a lot of time with two options and prices. Where's the price?
I'll give you an example, Marty. If you replace the HVA system, do you go just with one system like we have, or
We go with what's already been presented by our in-house guys.
Which
It's
is
a
one
great-
system.
It's two systems. It's up and down.
Well, it's one system feeding both upstairs and
No,
downstairs,
it isn't.
correct?
No.
Okay. My question is, do you insulate?
Any more? What do you mean?
Do you insulate the ceiling and the roof? Do you insulate underneath the floor?
Do you
or not?
want to or do you need to?
No, that's my
Should
question
you?
to you.
Should you?
That's where we're at.
Depends on whose money
Your
you're
answer is that what we're looking for is input, because I'll give you an example. We
I
can
would
fix
suggest
these
that you let
bathrooms and put
Rockwood
ECT on the floor, okay? We can put linoleum on the floor in the bathrooms, because we don't have to put tile down, okay? So if that's what the community wants, we can do that. If you want to put an HVA system in and you don't want to bother to insulate the floors and insulate up on top, we can do that. And that's where the question.
One question, I'll be done with you. Are you gonna do a cost evaluation of what we need to do versus what some people want to do?
If you could tell me, will you tell me within 48 hours? Well, what is HVAC? You told me earlier
We
you
already
didn't
have
want
a
to
price.
insulate.
It was done 2 years ago.
Do you want
right?
to insulate,
Look,
Marty?
1
Answer
year
the
ago,
question.
1 year ago, we sat up in the Yacht Club when you made your presentation. Let me just tell you a couple things that have changed. 3 things have changed, just right off the top. First, $800,000 of bridge liabilities. Were they on the table a year ago? No. $450,000 shortfall in gas tax. Was that on the table a year ago? No. How about $500,000 to the Swim and Racket Club? No. So there's been $1.7 million swing before you buy the first nut or bolt for this building. That's a lot of money. All I'm asking you is, and we've had meetings, I'm not going to argue with you about it.
I want you to define it. Define what need is. Is need putting tile in the bathroom? Just answer this.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Is need insulating if we need to put an HVA system in?
I would put in the bare minimum of insulation that you need. That you need.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to put a canopy out front? There's no real need for
We've
that.
already approved that in the budget.
But is there a need now?
We have approved it in the budget.
Can we go back to the board and you would vote to can it? Because it's really not a need
You know
that
what?
you want.
I would probably not vote for it today because of the fact, the $1.7 million in extra expenses we've been whacked with. I think it's more important that we maintain our roads than put a canopy on today.
Okay.
Ted, the one question I have, under the minimum renovation, would we be bringing the bathrooms up to ADA standards?
No.
You could.
We don't need to.
Well,
Well, actually, the cost there makes sense, you gotta take the floors
See,
out.
that's what our argument is.
The
is we're
floors are
trying-
out.
We're trying
The
to find.
difference in cost of the ADA is zip.
Yeah, just to clarify my question and maybe to help with some of this, we're asking, what I thought we were gonna get when we got to the maintenance part was this sensible, if we're replacing something, obviously, the insulation is a sensible thing, because that's one of the reasons it's costing us so much more. Why get new HVAC if you're not going to replace the insulation? Bringing the bathrooms up to ADA obviously sounds like a good idea. That's a lot of our residents talk about that now. Those to me are minimum maintenance requirements. Am I missing something here?
Yeah.
I think you are.
And if you're talking about the bathroom, yeah, if you put those costs together, I guarantee you might get a better backing for doing something major, because those things cost almost as much as a major renovation.
But Carol, I think the one thing that I think Bill may have been alluding to is if you're gonna put new wiring into the AC, you're gonna be tearing out some of the walls anyway where all the wiring is located, am I correct?
No, you don't have to tear walls up.
Well, you gotta tear out sections to put that, run the wiring through the building, am I right there?
Just change right up.
Okay. I'm just saying that if you're changing the wiring, usually most of it runs in parallel altogether. So if you're changing out the AC wiring, why wouldn't you change it under the old wiring that goes along with it, if it can be done in parallel at the same point in time?
There are a lot of things, one of the problems is in this, you've got so many system things that if it was only the decks, or only the HVAC, or only the bathrooms, it's easy. But when you start in one thing, it starts to expand. If you tear out the kitchen floor, are you gonna pour a new concrete floor in there and epoxy? Yes, because that makes sense. Are you gonna, do you wanna expand the kitchen space on the first floor? You don't need to. You don't need to pick up that extra couple hundred square feet. It may make sense, I don't know.
You know, we seem to be getting to the point where we're talking about preferences, but preferences probably depend to some extent on dollars, and I haven't heard any dollars yet.
We're getting there right now, but the reason why we're having this discussion is because if we go, see, we're trying to define what we must do. And when you do what you must do, it sometimes makes sense to do what you should do at the same time. Because I'm not gonna be here in 15 years, but we're gonna be sitting in this room again, some of you, no, you don't. I hope you're right.
Speak for yourself.
But we'll be doing the same thing. And my feeling is, if we don't do it right, we're wasting our people's money.
I don't think you'll find much disagreement on that.
Well, I think we need to hear from you.
We're hearing it
Yes.
right now.
We haven't heard
I'm
any more.
assuming since you've laid out these plans for the rehab and, a new building, you have a minimum.
We're gonna show the numbers right now, maybe then we can go back.
I mean, in maintenance only, Ted, is there
No,
any list?
they're starting to break out the prices for it now, but the problem
I
we
see.
get into is the
Is
same
defining.
question. What do you really need
Right.
and what is smart to do right now?
Well, if you price everything incrementally, Ted, then you can answer that question as you go along.
Okay, let's
What you
go.
need
Let's go.
depends upon how much it costs, of course. I mean, it's obvious.
I hope it's not obvious. All right, anybody feeling chest pains, yell. I know you can't see this, but we're still messing with numbers. But I'll run through. New build, sorry, we're still literally trying to put the numbers together, but I'm gonna run through it again. The new building guaranteed lump sum cost, $2,140,000, including the design. That's Lehman's cost, okay, for the building you see. Added to that, we put in, and these are very rough budget numbers that need to get squared away. We put in for landscaping and parking, including the sign and the flagpole, $40,000. Kitchen and furnishings, we have 3 or 4 breakouts in here of $9,000, $82,000, $11,000, and $36,815, and that has to do with running the new exhaust. If we do a new building, we've got to move the exhaust from one side of the building over to the other. It's buying furnishings, outside bar, inside bar. If we do the new one, we've got to buy the high tables that go around. It's all of the furnishings necessary to be able to do it. Some money for us to store. We have to pull all of the stuff we're using out of the building, rent some of those big containers that you see in people's driveway occasionally, and store the stuff for more than a year while it's undergoing. We have some additional engineering we need to do in on this building. We also need to do in on the rehab. I'll talk about that. It's $25,000. And we haven't yet priced out data TV phones. I think the alarms are in there, though.
Yes, yeah.
The alarms are in there. Data TV and phones, which ran about $6,000 on this building. So that's somewhere we're in there. That gets us to a sum of about $2,344,545. We put a contingency of 7% in on top of that. Most of what we saw ran from 5 to 8%. We stuck 7 in there as a starting figure, which gave us a total cost of $2,494,345. That's the brand new building, from the ground up, finished, complete, done, furnished, installed, landscape, done, finished. Rehabilitation, we got a base bid on the exterior of $805,290, a base bid on the interior of $878,552. That came to $1,683,842. So if you're comparing Lehman's cost alone, okay, Lehman's alone, the new building is $2,140,000. The major rehab, their base bid is $1,683,842. We then went back to them as part of the leveling to make sure we got what we wanted. They had a couple of adds in here. There was a deduct to keep the decks at 2 levels. We got rid of the airlocks on the second floor and the first floor because we didn't feel they were needed. We added an egress from the existing kitchen right out onto the deck. Right now they have to go back out and walk through the middle of the thing. So our total cost, if you're comparing apples to apples, new versus old, Lehman only, is 2.14 versus 1.69 or 1.7 roughly. Okay? Then we go down, when we add in similar numbers under landscaping and kitchen. The landscaping number's a little lower because we've already got a flagpole there, we don't have to construct one. In the kitchen, there's a $35,000 delta because we don't have to run a new stack up there. We've already got one, we just need about $1,000 on it. We have a big hole that's sitting here. If you're going to do this building for 40 years, do you cap the remaining piles now that are inside? That our geotech says if you're looking 30 to 40 years out, do it now rather than come back later. We're getting a number on that. Data TV phones again, which gets us down to about 1.8. On the old building, we have a contingency of 20% built in there, not 7. And that's because when we start to rip these decks off, who was talking about termites earlier, or whatever else you may find underneath there. So we stuck 20% in. I got numbers of everything from 17 to 24% from a couple of the major rehab contractors up in the DC area, depending on the building. So we used 20% in there as a plug figure. So when we get done, we have the major rehab at $2,174,924. The new building at $2,494,345. The delta in there is about $300,000 or $400,000, and a lot of that has to do with the contingency because you've got a much higher contingency on new but old. And one of the things to go back to is to take a look at what the base price in there is about. It's about $500,000 difference when you get back to the base price, sir.
Isn't this a no-brainer? Isn't it? So wouldn't you go with the new?
That's what we're asking.
I don't think there's any, we still haven't discussed.
We still haven't
How long would it take a new building to be built?
Okay, that's a very good question. How long would it take? If we go with the rehab, we'd start in early September, we get through by Memorial Day. If we go with the new building, we'd start as soon as we can, which would be, we have to take a lot more time to finish the design we wouldn't finish probably till next September, October. We go through another whole summer with no club.
I think the people of Ocean Pines deserve a first-class facility.
I do too.
I mean, we go to, my wife and I go down to the villages every year, and they've got community centers every mile or so. And you come back here and you have a community here that's so ill-served, it's a disgrace. Now, I think, the difference here, you go for the new building. Go for what the people deserve.
Is
People
some
are
of
paying
the
for it.
rehab work broken out, like, I know that the rehab that we saw included a lot of upgrades.
You mean, just the basic rehab?
Yes,
Okay.
basic rehab without extending.
The
How
reason we
much
had this
more?
long discussion is because I don't know where to stop. And those people who are interested in this, we can have a sit down and we can say, okay, what do we agree we must and really should do? Then we got to draw that line, and we got to see, then we can price it out pretty easily, I think. Okay? But my gut feeling is that if we're going to do a partial rehab that can later on be fixed up the last 40 years, because that's what you got to do, it's going to cost, I would guess, once you say a number, everybody hangs on it, $900,000.
But just my question is there are some upgrades there that are not considered part of the rehab. It's upgrades, and I just think that we would need to, if you're asking for us to help you get this through the community, we need to know what the difference is there. Because right now, it's stacked completely. If you're saying that people are gonna, this has to go to referendum at the cost of it, either way.
We've talked about this. What we don't want to do
Well
is
said.
say, if you people don't agree with what our option is, we're going to spend $900,000 anyway. We don't want to make a threat. You know what I mean? We don't want to. That's not
That's
the way we
a
want.
choice you have to give the membership.
But we got to come up with
You
a
don't
number.
say it's gonna
We have
cost
to give the
$2
number.
million to rehabilitate it, or 2.4, you
I'd
say,
just like to go on
you
record
gotta
saying
we're gonna
that
do that.
keep the
We're gonna
number
do that.
without all
well,
the
that's a very
upgrades
important
that I
number,
saw.
and I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, the other thing we want to do is to make sure that nobody we don't come in here and say it's going to cost $680,000, we'll redo the decks this year, and next year it's going to cost $215,000 to do HVAC, and in a sense, end up spending more money over a 5-year thing than we would have up front. That's number one, and number two is I don't want anybody to come back, and that's part of the reason we want to know what wants and needs are, and we're going to come up with what we think the wants and needs are, and then it can be argued out. But I don't want anybody coming back. We've said since the beginning, even if we didn't hit referendum dollars, we were going to a referendum on this, okay? And I don't want anybody to come back later on and say 3 years from now, oh, you guys said we didn't, you lost the referendum, yet you've spent, $900,000 this year, $400,000 next year, $250,000 next year, $350,000 next year, and guess what? You got a piece of junk that you just patched and painted to get where you wanted, and you end up spending more money than you would have up front. So we can, based on what you're saying, I think I have a pretty good sense of where you want to go. But you have arguments. You want VCT in the bathrooms or tile.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm talking about some of the stuff on the outside, enclosing the upper and lower decks and things like that.
$22,000 for
Those
one
are
floor,
upgrades.
$23,000 for
Right,
the other,
and how
plus or
about
minus.
the deck being
For
one level all the
$40,000,
way
for
out?
$40,000, it makes sense.
Right,
For 40
the
years.
deck being one level all the way out, what's the cost of that? Because that's a want, that's not a need,
Okay,
right?
raising it all the way up to the same height as the current deck there was only about $2,300, and we took it out and said leave it down at the other one. Are you talking about expanding and picking up the other 900 feet?
But I'm just looking at the rehab that included a lot of stuff that doesn't have to be
There's
rehabbed.
virtually no additional cost because you'd be doing this deck and you'd be doing this deck.
No, she's talking about the decks.
No, I'm talking about the outside deck.
The outside deck. So the 900, it's virtually nothing because they're going to be doing it at both levels. All they'll do is raise that 900 square feet.
Right, but
up.
does that have to be done? Those decks have to be replaced?
Well, it's
Well, Carol, look at
That's all I
this.
asked.
If we agree that the decks around the building have to be replaced, and they're going to be all this nice new wood, we know the ones below are going to have to replace in the next 5 years or so.
Okay.
We want those ugly decks down there, let's do it at the same time.
No, if they're gonna have to.
It's
be
only
replaced-
money.
So we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't do it, Marty?
I don't know,
Well, I don't know either, Marty.
It's a
Well, there's
referendum.
another issue. You talk about wants and needs, and it would be unconscionable for this community not to address the ADA requirements in their building.
Absolutely.
If there's one resident in this community who can't utilize that club because he's in a wheelchair or she's in a wheelchair, it's our fault if we go to any kind of rehab and don't take care of that one individual. He's entitled, or she's entitled, to fully access and be comfortable in this yacht club. And you can't deny them that access.
And you're not gonna hear any argument from us.
Okay,
But can they hear an argument
You
from
talked
the other
about,
people
and when
in
you
the
started, you
community?
talked
And
about
that's
some
what the
basic,
referendum's about.
some basic principles. I think what I hear is
Remember, we get
some
2
basic
grand a year.
excuse
principles
me, she's trying to go.
that are gonna guide, the major rehab and then, I don't know, what the must-haves, whether it's ADA compliant, whether it has to last 40 years, whether it's energy efficient, or, I don't know, there seem like there need to be some basic principles that are gonna have to help you through that third option, which is the must-have. Otherwise, people are gonna pick through it. I mean,
And that's exactly what we feel right now, is we're not sure. We're gonna go ahead, and when we get feedback from you all, we're gonna go ahead, based on that feedback, and try to define those must-haves we'd like to have and spell it out and not put a number to it, okay? And that way we can come back. Joe was for a long time, and then Mark.
I think anybody that sat here and listened to this, in this room anyway, because most of the people in this room are pretty active in the community in a lot of ways. So, and there's no way of knowing whether this small group represents 8,400 owners times 2, which is maybe 16,000 more people, and we got maybe 50 in this room. I think it's a no-brainer to me that if the information I've heard tonight is anywhere near correct, that we ought to be looking at a new building with all the ADA stuff, whatever is required. And you can debate what goes in the new building, but I think we ought to be looking at a new building, assuming these numbers are correct. But Marty's also correct in that we really don't know what the community wants, and you guys will never know what this community wants, not from hearing input from people like us. In my view, the board of directors, and I have problems a lot of times with board of directors, but the board is elected to make these kinds of decisions. The board should make a decision as to what it thinks is best,
We're gonna do that.
and then you're going to put it to referendum, and the people will decide one way or the other.
Right, we're gonna do that, but we're, you know, it's very easy to fall in love with your own plan, okay? And that happened before, right? You know, any one of these is a compromise. Nothing is what everybody wants. But we're gonna have to come, the 10-year task force is gonna have to decide new building or rehab, or this. We're gonna recommend to the board. The board's gonna make their decision. We can't go out and referendum for, do you want this, or do you want that?
tile, or do you want?
You can't do that. We gotta make a decision. We're being paid to make a decision. We're gonna go with rehab, or we're gonna go with so-and-so.
But you have to give those members
We are.
the honest facts, and so they can make an educated
We are
decision.
gonna do that, okay?
Well, remember, in the past, it's not always been the case.
Marty, we're gonna do it. We're gonna spell it out in
Well, I was
detail.
at a meeting not a month ago where the charge was to come up with this need number, and we don't have it now.
And the
What we
reason-
have is this,
Marty, we know we haven't got it now. We're concerned because we don't know. We're trying to get a feel for what you think we need and should do, quite frankly, okay?
you can pick need, I don't care. That doesn't mean tile floors, it means what you must do.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about, I'm not talking
I know, you and I are gonna fight later.
I'm not gonna fight anybody.
Hold on.
I thought you were through, I'm sorry, Marty.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are you through?
Yes.
Okay. You were talking about wants and needs. Now, there are some things that go together. You need this new HVAC system, you're talking about that. You want this, you need it. But then you started talking about insulation. Well, we want it, maybe we don't need it, and blah, blah, blah. If you're putting in a new heating system, you've got to have insulation. Think about your heating and your cooling bills. down the pike. If you're gonna do it right. And that's just on the heating and cooling. If you're gonna do it right on the whole
The
thing.
whole thing.
You've got to have insulation.
I think the lady over here mentioned standards, and you mentioned the Florida location. I do economic development around the country. And one of the things that I would recommend, and I go along with the standards question, is what kind of community do we want? Do we want a community that patches its amenities together and can't stand the test of comparison? Or do we want one that has buildings like this, that's comparable to anybody in this country? I've seen a lot of them. We have to look to the future and make the right kinds of decisions, because all of our amenities tell the story. Because someone made a joke earlier about 15 years from now, and then everybody laughed because almost nobody's going to be here. That means everybody in this room, per se, is going to want to do something with something they own. Well, if the amenities of the community are simply patched together with gum and tape because of a short-term financial situation, then that's what's going to be surrounding your investment when the time comes. So I do not dissuade the financial discussion, but I believe the lady is correct. It's got to be aimed around a concept that says we're going to have one of the top and continue to have one of the best communities in the country on the East Coast, and they have some of the best amenities that are taken care of. As you know, I'm in love with the 10-year proposal because they went out and looked at what makes this community what it is. And the next step in that is possibly this facility and having it be a top-notch place where we can go to. That's just my 2 cents.
But as Joe said, we don't speak for everybody in this community, and there are a lot of people who don't agree with that. Yes, sir, Dave.
Pointing at me. Yeah, I just want, it sort of refers back to Tom. It's just almost exactly 3 weeks ago, Senator Turns Grill, a former director, called me over and he said, Dave, what are you guys doing about the Yacht Club? He says, you know, during the period I was on the board, which I think was 6 years, he says, we put way over $1 million into that building. Now, you've heard what's wrong with it now. We put way over $1 million into that building. And I believe, you know, he can back that up with facts. So think about it, way over $1 million. But on the other hand, though, we do have to get down to the core bottom, because if the community, if we go out, the 10-year planning is going to recommend one of those 2 options to the board, rebuild or renovate. Probably guess which one. And the board is going to approve that to go out to referendum, maybe unanimously, maybe not. But then the community is going to decide whether or not, yes or no, to do it. And if it's no, we have to be prepared to figure out what we have to do anyway. I mean, I don't care. It's true. It will be another, it may be another $1.5 million going into something that we'll have to do. And don't say that you can't spend $300,000 here and $300,000 the next year, because that's exactly what past boards have done.
Okay, and by the way, I'm convinced that Ted and I, and with some help, will have those numbers at the meeting next Friday. Okay? Marty, you have something to say? Carol?
I say that is the biggest help. That's exactly what I was
We
saying.
plan
If
to
you
do that.
have those numbers, it's
We will.
going to make sense. If you, because that's how we got this building in place, talking about how much it costs to bring it up to what our community expects against the cost of rebuilding and rehabbing. It's going to be a no-brainer.
Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
One of the challenges is, as Dave just said, we have to come up with a number for that third alternative.
Yeah.
Because if the referendum, whichever the recommendation is, does not pass, we need to do certain things. The question is, when you compute that dollar amount, do you actually have it be the bare minimum or something greater than the bare minimum? And we've talked around it tonight, and everybody's going to have a different opinion perhaps of what constitutes above the bare minimum that makes a lot of sense to do. What I've been suggesting to myself, I think I've probably said it out loud a couple of times, is it's not just a question of what we have to do, It's what we should do under the circumstances. You agree with that?
That's it. That's the price we need because
That's
what
why
is
we're
the
paid
price.
the
We're
dollars
gonna
we
do
are.
that. You'll have that by next Friday.
Make the
But
decision.
that's not gonna be everybody's
No,
dollar
it's not.
amount. I mean, this person may say, no, you can't do this, you can't put insulation in, you can't, you just
Not
bare
do the
bones,
wiring.
bare bones. But
There's a lot of middle ground in between.
I have to tell you how many people I think would vote to plywood it before they'll vote to spend 2.5.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, everybody, opinions are all over the place. But you need, we've already approved the HVAC, it's been budgeted. We need to take those numbers and say, here's what it's gonna cost if we don't get the referendum through.
We will.
And this number that you've got right now is gonna be taken for what it is, it's gonna be taken for smoke.
Does anyone remember what we said the cost, estimated cost of this would be if the referendum didn't pass? It was right in the referendum package.
That's right.
Exactly.
1.2 million.
And
It was
it made the decision much easier because we knew.
Well, what's smoke? What's smoke?
If you give them two options,
Well, we're gonna
two
know, we're
pouring,
gonna, Marty,
two
we've
one,
always come up with
obviously,
a number, okay?
right now, and it's no
Don't-
brainer.
you think these other two things are smoke?
No, I
Okay.
think that, well, yes, I do.
I notice a lot of nervousness on the part of the board about committing themselves to some plan of action. And I think a lot of that has to do with the mistrust that existed at one point in time.
Who's nervous?
Okay.
What we were,
But I really think that
Numbers out.
the good results that came out of what was done with this building are an indicator that there's been a crossover. This was done right, it turned out beautifully, and I think if the board makes up its mind, like say for instance, you look at it and you say it makes good economic sense to do the tear down and rebuild, I think people are going to accept it. I don't think there's need to be nervous. I think there's need to look at things logically, but not to be nervous about it.
Well, I just want to be, I don't want to be nervous about it. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable that this thing isn't wacko, okay? And that's why you all are so important in being here. But as Joe said, you all represent a certain segment of the community, most of you do, who are involved in all these things and do a lot of things. Okay, here's what we're going to do, all right? If you could, give us feedback, bounce this off the people you work with and stuff, that would help, okay? But the 10-year task force by Friday is going to make a presentation in the next meeting and to the board, and we're going to come up with the data for the three options, and we're going to present to the board, and it's going to be the board's lab, okay? If the board decides, then we're going to task out for future plans, all that kind of stuff, and we're going to plan to have the choice on the referendum that goes out in early July with the ballots. That means there's a lot of work between now and then, because that's almost here. But, you know, if it takes us more than a week to write up a referendum package, you know, I mean, you gotta sit down and do it, all right? From the time that we go out with the referendum package or are ready to go out, Ted and myself and other people will be willing to go out. We're not going to have one of these sales campaigns like they did for the community center. We're not going to buy shirts and all that kind of stuff. But we need to go out and make presentations to any and all groups, the boat club, the anglers club, all the committees, and present them a shorter form of this. And here's what it is, folks. Here's what we're doing, so we can tell them what we're doing. Okay. And that depends a lot on you, because you are the leaders. So that's kind of the plan, and that's where we are.
You said there'd be a presentation to the board next Friday?
No, there'll be a presentation to the 10-year task, right, the 10-year task force will decide, and I'm going to call a special board meeting for the board as soon as they're ready to present it to the rest of the board.
And that would be early June then?
It'll be early June, yeah.
The task force you're going to meet with, they're going to make one recommendation?
The task force is going to make a recommendation of what the task force believes should go with the
Then the board
backup
votes
data.
on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Carol?
Just another, those numbers be shared with us when it is identified? Because that is,
That
and it's the
that
first
meeting will be open.
question.
The meeting, it's an open meeting on Friday.
Okay.
On which Friday?
Which Friday are you talking
Which
about?
Next Friday.
A week
Next
Friday.
Friday.
A week.
27th.
That's
25th.
Memorial Day.
Oh,
weekend.
sorry,
Weekend.
20,
Thursday, I thought it was.
It's
But what do
Thursday.
you-
Thursday. It's
Thursday is that
Thursday.
meeting.
I think it's Thursday. We did it on Thursday because we wanted to make sure we people go away.
At 3 o'clock.
I don't know.
Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about Friday.
when this building went up,
We're already committed to a meeting.
when this building went up, it was accepted by the community dramatically, the amount of use that goes on here. I think Tom would verify that. Now, you can't make a parallel between the use of this building and the use of that yacht club, but I have a feeling, let's assume that we put up a brand-new building and it's a nice facility. I think it's going to initially attract a lot of people from this community who haven't been to that yacht club for a long time. So when you're trying to sell this, I think it's incumbent that you also sell what that place is going to be when it opens up. Because we're only going to get that opportunity. If we put a new building over there, we're only going to get that opportunity once
I agree.
to pull people.
We will have a good long time to do it, though. It's going to take a That's the good news.
All right, are there any other questions, any other comments? Nancy?
You said the board would approve it to go to referendum, the board would decide what it wanted, and the community would decide whether to do it. Then you said there's going to be a choice on the referendum, so.
No, it's not going to have a choice.
Not, okay.
The
no
board's choice will be on
The board's going to submit a yes or no for the option the board recommends, whether it be a major rehab or whether it be a tear down rebuild.
So the
If the board
referendum
decides we're only going to do the minimum, we don't have to go to referendum.
Right.
That's
But
going to
if
be
the board
done.
has one of the other choices.
We're going to go forward with one choice.
One choice, okay.
All right, folks, I want to thank you for showing up. We're not going to keep the rest of the committee chair here and go on with any other agenda. We're going to.
We do need feedback,
You
okay, in
need-
particular on any of the areas that are in here. If you have ideas on restrooms, you know, what we should do, any feedback you have will be helpful, because this is part of trying to get an idea where we're at, so.
And where do we send that feedback?
Email it to the board. Email it to me. You all know my email.
Send it to the records.
The records will get it. Okay, anything else? All right.
I just need to.
All right, thank you very much. The meeting's adjourned.